60 years ago, the world witnessed the emergence of a mystery drug that claimed to ease morning sickness and help pregnant women with severe pregnancy symptoms. But by the time its cover was blown, it had started to take full effect, rendering thousands of babies around the world with irreversible defects. This is how thalidomide caused one of the most devastating health disasters in history. During the late 1950s and early 1960s, thalidomide was first introduced as a tranquilizer. Then it was later marketed by the German pharmaceutical company Chemie Grünenthal under the brand name Contergan as a treatment for anxiety, difficult sleeping, stress, and morning sickness. Without ever being studied or tested for inconsistencies or harmful components, it was released to the public. And soon, thalidomide was widely used by thousands and thousands of unsuspecting women in many countries. Even doctors began to offer prescriptions to women who were pregnant or who became pregnant while taking the drug. Unfortunately, this widespread use of thalidomide turned into what has been described as the biggest medical disaster ever. And by 1961, hospitals began to report strange births. Across over 45 countries, about 10,000 embryos were affected due to the use of the drug during pregnancy, with about 40% of these babies who did not eventually survive passing away at birth or shortly afterward due to severe complications. For those who actually did survive, life was marked by a long list of terrible and life-altering physical defects. Babies were born with limb malformations, such as shortened or absent arms and legs, as well as severe eye abnormalities, urinary tract issues, and congenital heart defects. Mothers were terrified, doctors were frantic, and entire countries were thrown into a frenzy of utter confusion. Soon enough, reports started to emerge and they ultimately linked thalidomide to these tragedies. The more they learned about the ugly effects of this drug, the more terrifying it became. They had found that the number of days the mother had been pregnant before starting treatment determined the extent and location of the deformities. Thalidomide taken on day 20 of pregnancy damaged the central brain. On day 21, the eyes. On day 22, the ears and face. On day 24, the arms. And on day 28, the legs. By the end of that year, thalidomide was withdrawn from the European market, but unfortunately, a lot of irreversible damage had already been done. But the world needed to know, what could have caused a simple drug to have such catastrophic consequences? Upon critical observation and research, something rather interesting was discovered about thalidomide. The drug was found to be a case of the phenomenon called stereoisomerism. Stereoisomerism is a type of isomerism that occurs when two molecules share the same chemical formula and the same sequence of atoms connected in a specific way, but with a twist. There is a key difference in how those atoms are arranged in three-dimensional space. This means that stereoisomers are two molecules that have exactly the same set of atoms and the same connections between those atoms, but they differ in how those atoms are spatially positioned, giving them a distinct 3D structure. It has long been a crucial concept in chemistry because even slight changes in a molecule's 3D shape can result in a change in how the molecules react, especially in the human body. So, while these molecules may look nearly identical at first glance, they function and interact in completely different ways, with completely different results. These molecules can also further be classified into two main categories: enantiomers and diastereomers. The one that has an affinity to thalidomide is the enantiomer. Enantiomers are a specific type of stereoisomers that are essentially mirror images of each other. It could be likened to how your left and right hands are mirror images but cannot be superimposed on one another. This means that while enantiomers share the same chemical structure, their orientations are extremely different, which can lead them to behave very differently in the body, even though they share the same basic components. So while one enantiomer of thalidomide was effective as a sedative and did help stop morning sickness in pregnant women, the other enantiomer caused severe birth defects and limb malformations. Think of it as a good guy, bad guy situation, only that the two look exactly alike. Adequate testing would have revealed the inconsistencies, but the drug mixture wasn't even properly purified to separate the two versions of the molecule. But what's even worse is the harmful version could again form in the body, even if they had been separated before use. This difference in the biological activity between the two enantiomers is an example of how stereoisomerism can result in tragically different effects, even when the compounds do have the same molecular formula. This is quite similar to another type of isomerism called cis-trans isomerism, where certain molecules can have the same parts but are arranged differently. Imagine you have a molecule with two groups attached on either side of a double bond, like a bridge that doesn't let parts rotate freely. In the cis arrangement, these two groups are on the same side of the bridge, which can make the molecule bend or have a certain shape. This different arrangement can change and affect how the molecules behave, like its boiling point, smell, or even how it works in your body, just because of the way the pieces are positioned. Though it is quite different from the case of thalidomide, it proves that chemically, small changes can make a lot of difference, even though the molecule's parts appear to be exactly the same. In the thalidomide story, however, there appears to be one heroine who single-handedly saved the United States of America from GHS tragedy. Frances Oldham Kelsey was a remarkable Canadian-American pharmacologist and physician who worked as a reviewer for the FDA during the early 1960s. Kelsey had an undeniable pioneering spirit and had already built a strong foundation in medical research at the University of Chicago before joining the FDA. The world eventually witnessed her passion for science and commitment to public safety, as these qualities would soon play a role in one of the most significant drug safety cases of the 20th century. When thalidomide was presented to the FDA for approval, Kelsey was the one assigned to review it. After a careful preview, she quickly became concerned about the lack of substantial evidence supporting the drug's safety, particularly for pregnant women. Despite pressure from the pharmaceutical company pushing for a quick approval, Kelsey refused to give in. She requested more evidence and data about the drug and its effects. Her persistence and refusal to approve thalidomide without enough safety data saved the whole country, preventing what could have been a national tragedy and saving thousands of children in the United States from being born with severe birth defects caused by thalidomide. Now, with a more advanced knowledge of these molecular targets, the pharmaceutical industry has seen a steady rise in the development of safer medications, and more importantly, a more guided use of thalidomide. Since the use of thalidomide in developmental biology, it has resulted in useful discoveries in various areas including limb development, and the thalidomide tragedy actually marked a turning point in toxicity testing by prompting the United States and international regulatory agencies to develop useful toxicity testing protocols. Despite its tragic history and the severity of its effects, thalidomide was eventually approved by the FDA in 1975, after thorough testing and several procedures before approval for safe use. Now, it is used with strict regulations and in combination with other drugs to treat specific serious medical conditions. For instance, thalidomide is often prescribed along with dexamethasone to help manage a type of blood cancer called myeloma. For decades, the combination has proven to be effective for many patients without fatal or extreme side effects. It is now also used to address moderate to severe cases of new lesions in leprosy. For people with erythema nodosum leprosum, which are recurring, painful skin lesions caused by leprosy, thalidomide acts as a maintenance treatment and reduces the likelihood of these lesions ever recurring. And there you have it, thalidomide, a drug that was supposed to bring relief but instead brought about one of the darkest times in medicine. In the history of medicine, it will always serve as a reminder of the importance of thorough testing and drug regulation, especially when it comes to public health and safety. In the meantime, we have learned our lessons, and now the discoveries made from this tragedy are saving lives every day.